The other thing that's shocking is that in 2018, 12 Congolese asylum seekers protested about food that they were being given, which was moldy and so on, and had a peaceful protest, and they were shot dead by the Rwandan police. So it's not just that it's only political activists who run foul of this terrible regime. People who were asylum seekers were shot dead simply by complaining about the food.
The Rwanda Bill will see its second reading in the Lords this afternoon. The debate will give the government an opportunity to assess the opposition to the bill, although many expect it will just go through, as Labour have said they're not going to oppose it. Well, joining me now is Baroness Kennedy, Helena Kennedy, a Labour peer and leading human rights barrister who's voting on this bill later. Well, I hope I'm not asking you to give too much away, but Helena, how are you going to be voting on this, and how do you feel about Labour saying they won't oppose it?
Well, I'm sure that strategically Labour is deciding that they're not going to oppose it because they certainly do oppose it. If you read the Commons debates, it was made very clear that the bill is one that Labour finds abhorrent. And they have an alternative strategy for dealing with the problem, and they accept that there is a problem of people endangering their own lives by coming in small boats across from northern France to the UK. So there's a problem. Nobody's going to doubt that. I think that strategically Labour is saying we should allow this to be debated in full for the full understanding of its limitations to be made available to the world at large and to the British public before there are any votes taken. So it's about not wanting to be preemptive and not sort of seeking to close down debate. I don't think that they want to be seen to be doing that. I will listen very carefully before I make my own decision because, as everybody knows, I'm a fairly independent-minded woman. But I feel very strongly that this bill contravenes international law, and I think that it should be a source of shame to us. I also think it's unworkable. I think that it's costing a ton of money. And I just don't think that it's a piece of legislation that does pride to our country as a place that it should feel that we have a reputation for protecting the rule of law, and here we're going to be breaking it.
Helena, of course, the government is saying that they've, changed the status quo, and so it no longer really contravenes international law. Rwanda have said that they don't want to break international law. What are your specific concerns? I mean, there were a couple of articles at the weekend about the fact that Rwandans had been given asylum in this country on the basis that they couldn't return. It wasn't safe for them to return, at the same time as we're launching a policy saying it's a safe country.
Well, I mean, let's be very clear. Our Supreme Court said it's not a safe country. The government is passing a bill to say that dogs are cats. I mean, that black is white. They're saying it is safe. And they're saying that because they've now entered into a treaty where they say that Rwanda is being helped to sort of raise its game. I sit on something that's called the Joint Committee on Human Rights, which is both the House of Commons and the House of Lords coming together to look at legislation to see whether it conforms to human rights standards and to our international law obligations. And Jonathan Sumption, Lord Sumption, one of our greatest judges, who's in fact pretty, I can say, conservative. I say that with a small c. I don't know how he votes, but he's somebody who's very traditionalist and certainly not. I wouldn't count himself as being someone described as a human rights lawyer, but he feels that this is a bill which is in contravention of international law because it's denying access to the courts under articles of the Refugee Convention, but also of the Human Rights Act and the European Convention on Human Rights, because we're limiting access to the courts. And of course, as a judge, he feels that runs in the face of the rule of law. But there are other things. I mean, one of the things that's shocking is not just that we're currently, even though we're saying we're putting in place a system in Rwanda that's going to be rigorous and conform. What they're really doing is they're giving Rwanda a ton of money in order to basically take in anybody we send to them. They will not, it won't matter if they are economic migrants or asylum seekers who are fleeing from persecution, whoever we send is going to be taken in by Rwanda, and it's a deal that's been made. So let's be clear about that, because it's recognized that you can't make judges who are not independent judges or people who don't understand international law, because that's been proven by the fact that 98% of people applying for asylum in Rwanda were refused over the last few years. And many of them coming from places like Syria, which is the sort of torture capital of the world. So, you really are dealing with a country that hasn't dealt with people seeking asylum well. Let me
Helena,
just... Mhm.
yeah, no, go
The other
ahead.
thing that's shocking is that in 2018, 12 Congolese asylum seekers protested about food that they were being given, which was moldy and so on, and had a peaceful protest, and they were shot dead by the Rwandan police. So it's not just that it's only political activists who run foul of this terrible regime. People who were asylum seekers were shot dead simply by complaining about the food. So let's not pretend that Rwanda is a place that is somehow sorted now. It's not. But we think that by paying them this money, we will somehow buy special dealing for our people. And people listening to this program should know that part of the treaty arrangement is that we will take people that are considered vulnerable people from Rwanda, that they'll send them to Britain. Now, who are those vulnerable people? And it's because Rwanda does not have, for example, adequate mental health capability.
Facilities.
It doesn't have medical, so it doesn't protect homosexuals. It might not protect religious minorities of a certain kind. So we know that there are serious problems about Rwanda fitting the bill here. And that's why it's such an obnoxious piece of legislation.
Well, I think we probably do know which way you're going to vote, Helena Kennedy, but I'm very grateful to you for joining me and just outlining how you see the complications with this, pretty controversial bill as it goes back and forth. Thank you very much again for joining me.